Hey guys. Now, before I speak about tonight's topic, I just want to remind everyone who sees this, these videos and these things I share about my work or therapy, helpful insights or educational stuff. This is not a replacement for therapy. If you really need help, if you're having problems and struggling, seek help. Whether it's I need to go to my local emergency room and to contact my local support person or my nearest confidant kind of thing, or someone I really trust, and open up and tell them that I need help. Seek help. Even if you walk into a mental health place or program and be like, hey, what do I do? I need help. How do I go about this? Seek it. This is not that replacement. I'm hoping to pass on good things and help get information out there, but help is there if you need it. If you have any questions, let me know. Sometimes, often, I'll find in that B section there are tell signs of clogged thinking, distorted thinking, right? And one of them is jumping to conclusions. There's 10, and I'll leave some info about it on this post and everything. But I encourage clients to look over them. If I give any homework, this is one of them. Is I'll hand out these pages, ask them to review it, and get to know what do they think they relate to the most in their current episodes of suffering, whether it's anxiety, sadness, certain behaviors, certain feelings, whatever. But when that stuff's going on, which one of these 10 do they relate to that it's happening in their head? Jumping to conclusions, fortune telling, mind reading, this is all one, the same category. They are a big one of the top ones. And what happens is, as a situation occurs, the person in their head starts thinking, I know what's going to happen. Why should I even try? This is going to occur. Or, oh, I know what's going to go down. We jump to conclusions, kind of like in Office Space. We jump to conclusions, Matt. We sit there and predict what's going to happen. And you damn right, it's not always positive. 90% of the time, it's some negative bullshit that we're thinking. The worst case scenario, some horrible memory of the past, something that happened just like this last time. It's really hard to stop, especially if you do it. Pull out the damn board. Especially if you use jumping to conclusions and the result kind of gets you something, kind of gets you somewhere, right? Not a great space, but it helps you deal with the situation. Your brain will reinforce that and be like, hey, we survived. We'll do this method again. And so this is where we get into problems when I need to really kind of clarify this, right? Because I'll give people that list and everybody can relate to them. These are things like we jump to conclusion, we mind read, we say should, we take it personal, we catastrophize, we emotion. Like they're very relatable problems. Like we all do these toxic traps because your brain can't know everything. You can't know everything that's going on in the next moment. And if you don't, and it's not a familiar situation, your brain's going to be like in fight or flight. Like, okay, we're on our toes. What do we do? How do we handle this? And so we have to sit there and maybe kind of rely on our autopilot, subconscious autopilots. And if one of them tends to be this jumping to conclusions, that can be a problem because now we're using this distortion over and over and over again as a thinking method in different scenarios of our life, different contexts, right? So whether at school, at work, with friends, with family, with strangers, in traffic, at the groceries, and errands, by yourself, in groups, at weddings, at funerals, you jump to conclusions. That's not good. If that is like one of your go-to methods to handle a situation, as I jump to conclusions, I fortune tell, I mind read, try to think of what everyone's thinking, what everyone's feeling. That ain't great. Because you can't, right? We can't always know the future. It's a weird distortion because it does sometimes work for us. Like, how do I describe this? In school, I remember a professor talking about us being able to create potential scenarios. And we do, right? We sit there and we can kind of create possible futures in our mind, like imagination. If I'm on traffic, I could sit there and imagine myself like totally speeding and just get in the left lane and burning everybody out. I could also imagine like rear-ending somebody. I could imagine road rage. I can imagine pulling over. We can imagine all these different possible futures you're about to take. And so it's a natural ability that we humans can do. And what can be useful about that is it can get you out of trouble, right? It can get you out of danger. You can sit there and be like, well, how might this go? What if I do this and this? And it's helpful. But it sucks if you start doing it in this jumping to conclusions, fortune telling, cognitive distorted way. That doesn't help. That hurts us, right? Because we end up behaving in maybe not the most fun way. The reason the distortions are rough and why it's like, well, how come it can be good sometimes and bad sometimes? When it's a cognitive distortion and it's classically like, yeah, I'm jumping to conclusions negatively, pessimistically, worst case scenario, don't have all the facts, it has nothing to do with the past, but, reminds me of it. When it's the distortion, it usually puts us in a negative space emotionally. Back to the picture. When it's a distortion, remember the emotions follow. And these feelings are usually really tough for us, or really painful, really hurtful. So the behavior ends up being whatever it can be to mitigate this. The reason we try to pull away from distortions is behaviors here can become more potentially unhealthy. When we do distorted thinking, we're more likely to have bad habits. So we may be, and it could be subtle. It could be subtle, like I just walk away from the situation. I step away. I get out of there. I escape, or I don't want to be around it. It could be weird and subtle, or I don't want to say weird in a bad way, but like not normal, right? It could be like, well, I bite my nails until they bleed. Sometimes I get so anxious. Right? Not great. It could be outright classically unhealthy. I drink. I oversmoke. I, punch a hole in the wall. Like, yeah, there are some behaviors that we deal with this whole thing, this cognitive process, that are not healthy. We call them maladaptive behaviors. It could be something unhealthy to you, to somebody else, to your life dynamic, right? Overspending, um, lying, sneaking out, right? It could be something very intricate, very complicated, but it's not healthy. But it's how we deal with right? The situation that happened. So this is where in therapy we're using this stuff because it's like, okay, so you're doing an unhealthy behavior, And I share this with everybody else because I know that's like a spectrum. Unhealthy behaviors are on a spectrum. So, and it's all relative, meaning someone listening to me may be doing pretty good in life. But if this connects with them, they may sit there and be like, yeah, dude, I'm kind of cutting out early, at this thing that I go to because I'm kind of burned out and nothing bad is happening. There's no addictions or nothing like this or, fires to be put up. But they're starting to notice that, yeah, my mind is going down this road. I keep kind of getting in this bad headspace at the last couple hours of this thing. So, like, we all do this. And sometimes we're in the very shallow end of the waters of doing this stuff, or we're full on in the deep end. I can definitely see people who are in the deep end, and it's like, oh, yeah, they're coming to me looking for help. But sometimes I'll talk with folks and they realize, damn, I'm like knee deep in this, or I'm kind of just ankle deep, but I'm in it, right? They jump to conclusions in their own way. And this jumping to conclusions thing, you start paying attention and looking for it, right? So if it is like, yeah, I do this a lot, all right, start figuring out the ABC process. Where do you do this? With whom? In what scenarios? At what part of the day? If I was following you like a ghost, where at what point would I be like, you're doing it? This is what you're talking about in session, right? Where would I notice that? Like, point that out to yourself. Again, this is if you want to work on changing it and kind of building some self-awareness. It's not easy because we're all just living those 12 hours, these 24 hours, going about our day-to-day, doing things that have to get done. or trying to find things to do. So our thinking patterns can kind of build up and create patterns, autopilot schemas to help us get through the day more efficiently. There's more to go into, but I'm hoping that this explains a bit of this, like, dang, this jump into conclusions. Like, yeah, you try to predict what's going to happen in the future, perhaps based on something negative, perhaps based on past terrible memories, perhaps based on bad experiences, but you try to nail it. And you could be very much wrong. You have no idea. There's no facts. There's no maybe info. Maybe you get something, but it's still like you're 95% guessing here based on a 5% piece of information, right? It can become mind reading where it's like, I know how so and so feels. I know what so and so is going to say. I know what so and so is going to feel about this. I know what they're going to react like. Do you? Do you know? Or is you're saying that because of past experience or more like deeper fears or worries? And that's what your brain's saying. We don't want this to happen. You know what I mean? But when we become a self-aware, this little window of potential happens. You get the potential to make a difference, to make a change. Right? That's what's cool about this is when you start helping someone become more awake to this process and they're like, yeah, man, I keep doing this thing. Oh my God, you're right. This happens to me. I can't be there with them in their day-to-day life, but they'll come back and tell me between sessions where it's like, or in between, the weeks in the session, they'll tell me like, I'm starting to notice this, or I catch it like as it's building up. Like, yes, it happens. And if they start to catch it well enough, they might find this like little open space, like I say, this potential to do something different. And that's where we work. Therapy starts to happen more there too, or therapy works there, where we're trying to be like, all right, so what do we say instead? Reconstruction. Reframing is what we call it in CBT. We try to help a person reframe their thinking, challenge this part right here. This part I circled is the only real part we have control over. When it comes to like this kind of therapy, this cognitive therapy of what do I do to make things different? You work on your thinking, your attitude, your beliefs. This is very complex and can be very deep. But if it is like I am jumping to conclusions and fortune telling and stuff, it's happening here. And you can try to change that stuff when you become self aware about it. Right? When you sit there and think, I hear it in my head. I get that I'm doing that. That's where we practice. Maybe you'll say this instead. Maybe you'll remind yourself, hey, I don't know the future. All I know is the here and now. Hey, I know that's based on certain fears because of this when I was growing up. That's not like this nowadays. We try to reframe it, restructure, and rewire what our brain is saying to us, what we believe in. It's possible, but we have to be more self aware of these distortions. This is just jumping to conclusions, mind reading, fortune telling. There's 9 other ones. So I'll make more videos little by little. Maybe I can push more out there. But I'm going to try to share more about each of these distortions. If you have questions, if you have thoughts about this, please leave a comment. Let me know. If you have an idea of a topic that you want me to talk about and I can look into, please let me know. Some of the stuff I may already have some knowledge on and share my perspective is how do I put it. What I'm sharing, what I'm saying are things that people have worked through. Not currently, because I don't want to be sharing people's business that are actively seeing me, but people that I've seen in the past, stories that I recall in my experience. These are all things that I've seen this stuff applied to it, and it's helped. It's not for everybody. And that's why I say, like I said earlier, this is not a replacement for therapy. I'm just trying to pass on good information, spread awareness, wake some people up if they happen to come across something like this and it connects, encourage people to seek the right direction. When you believe in something, it's good to talk about it and share it. To what degree, I don't know. But it's not good to just censor that or keep that to yourself. You have to find a way of expressing it. And this is one way that I do this. I have a lot of info that I talk to people in these 4 walls. and I see how it helps them, whether it's insights, awareness, tears shed, things let go of, emotions processed, but it helps talking things out and this information that I share. So I'm thinking, like, I got to get this out to more people. It's out there, but we're not all doing the work. We're not all walking these similar paths. So it's good to just, hey man, pay attention. So from one human to another, take care of yourself. Pay attention to the way you talk to yourself, the way you commentate in your mind, your day to day. And if you notice your emotions are wonky or your behaviors aren't the way you want to be acting, pay attention to your thinking. If it's not jumping to conclusions, it could be something else. So, good luck. Take care of yourself. It's almost the weekend. Take care, guys.